Morning all, and welcome to the first Lyndon Cricket Club talk with Andy Delmont. Andy is a former South Australian state player and currently plays at Reigate Priory Cricket Club in the Surrey Premier League. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Will. How are you, Will?
Yeah, good, thanks. How you doing? Could also as well.
Really well, thanks.
I know you just touched on it as well. I'd just like to say a massive good luck to Alex and his mum, who are crossing the English Channel in their backyard paddling pool. I think it's going to take a total of 17 hours, and it's all the money you've raised is going to the NHS. So it's quite an incredible achievement, and good luck with your task.
That's a huge effort. Good luck, guys.
All right, Andy, we'll move on to the your first question. So, who is your cricket hero?
My cricket hero would have to be the Prince Brian Lara. Growing up in Adelaide, he had a few famous innings at the Adelaide Oval, and I remember as a junior going along to the Test matches and just watching this guy play, and the way he took the Aussies on, a strong Aussie team at the time. Obviously, the West Indies were really good then as well, so it was just an amazing series, and he always just turned starts into massive hundreds, and I just remember that vividly.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And is there somebody in your more, or probably close to home, your personal life growing up, who is a massive influence on your career personally?
Yeah, I would. There's quite a few. There's a number, because I've played across a couple of different states, South Australia and Victoria. I'll start with South Australia when I came onto the first grade scene just after schoolboys cricket. There was our first grade captain called Nathan Adcock, who went on to captain South Australia for a couple of seasons as well. But just watching him go about his business in the nets, a role model. On the field, he was always running to grab the bowler's hat, and sort of always sprinting to see how you're going, or tap someone on the bum, see how they're travelling if they're in their second or third spell. And he was just a great captain, and gave me a chance to come into the middle order, and I was still bowling a little bit of seam at the time, so I got an all-rounders position, and he helped me progress the second 11 and then to South Australia eventually. And in Victoria, I'd have to say Alan Wise and Cameron Watt. Alan for a role model who I look up to, came to South Australia, then he went back to Victoria, and I sort of followed him, Richmond Tigers. A left-arm seamer, 200-game veteran. I think he took probably 500 wickets. I might have been a bit short there, but and Cameron was just a great help when I moved across, because going to Victoria was a bit daunting as a young South Australian. So those two guys were really helpful in that move across states.
Yeah. And you talk about there as well. I think you talk about you kind of describing some great teammates as well. From your personal experience, what makes a great team? What makes a great teammate, and what attributes did they have? What contributed towards a great teammate?
Great teammates are guys who want to see you do well and be successful. So they invest a lot of time in sort of nurturing you and mentoring you, especially when you're a junior. You notice it a lot. And for them to actually spend that time and invest that into you, that's what it's all about. On the field, playing wise, a great teammate does all the 1%ers, runs the drinks for the guys. If you miss out early and you're a top order bat, then you're always looking to try and help out the team. And I think these guys were class at that all the time. In terms of I suppose it's a bit of an Aussie saying, doing those 1%ers, but it's grabbing the bowler's hat, as we've mentioned before, Will. It's a big Australian thing, helping out the bowlers, because it's pretty hard work in Australia when it's really hot, and in summertime in England here as well. So all those sorts of little things, it makes a good teammate, builds a good culture, and you're going to have a few victories on the back of it, no matter how talented you are. If you're doing those sorts of things, you'll gel as a unit, and you'll want to perform for each other rather than your individual success. So yeah.
So
Sorry, it was a bit long-winded, that one.
That was brilliant, thank you. I think what was quite, so from almost some picking up on all that, is that you talked about almost, because I've been playing over in Australia myself, and your focus very much is on about the team and not yourself. And I know they mentioned it in the test in the recent documentary. Sometimes it's about the team and not myself, or not me and not I. And I think that's a great quality of Australian sport and especially Australian cricket. And that's the biggest lesson I think I learned whilst being over in Australia.
Yeah, and it makes you accountable as well for your mates. So, you've got to rock up to training on a Tuesday and Thursday to get selected for the weekends. You want to be on time. All the simple things you can control. You can't control the pitch, the conditions. If it's seaming round, if it's spinning square, you can't control those sorts of things. So you've just got to do all those 1%ers, and it will go your way. Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. And if you had one message for a junior player starting their cricket career, what message would that be?
Definitely to have fun with your friends. It's about just going out there and having fun and just being with your friends on the weekend. I remember the schooling days. It's all I would talk about all week is the Saturday morning cricket and how it was going to pan out, and you're just looking forward to having another day with your mates on a Saturday. So that's definitely my advice. Just enjoy it. Find a way to have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. You're going to miss out a lot of times in cricket. You're not always going to have a great week. We've mentioned before how you're only going to be successful probably 1 in 2 games out of 6 games. So I try and plan my season to probably win 3 or 4 games for my team out of 18 games. And if I do that, I think I've probably had a good year. And then if I've got another couple of little scores around that, and I've had like 6 games out of 18, a third game, then I think that would have been a pretty good year. And if I've contributed to 4 or 5 wins, then the teammates help out for another few wins. Then, if you're getting half wins and a couple of draws and a few losses, you should finish quite high up in the league tables here. So
just on that, Andy, you sort of mentioned about everyone chipping in with their bit, and back to the thing about training and how important that is to the team ethos, and how you sort of build that trust with your teammates through the training, and then that goes into match day, and it all just becomes like a natural sort of progression into a team unit attitude.
Absolutely, yeah. We pride ourselves on everyone being at training. There's 4 grade teams usually in Australia in the Premier grades, and usually there's probably 48 people there. So there's a couple of people that will miss out. That's how competitive it is. But it builds that unit, it builds that work ethic, the belief in your teammates, it instills confidence in everyone. And you're just going to be successful no matter how talented. I've seen some of the teams probably don't have the most talent that win premierships, but they gel as a unit and they work hard together off the track, and they do all the right things leading into the game, and they'll take care of itself. And then you enjoy each other's successes after that on a Saturday night.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think you can probably sum that up as well, saying like almost a happy cricketer or a happy team is a good team or a good player as well.
100%.
I think, and I just watched a current documentary with Glenn Maxwell, or a quick brief documentary with Glenn Maxwell and Richard Clifton, and it kind of said how he goes back to kind of the basics, and after leaving a session with Richard, he's always feeling happy, and that almost improves him as a player as a consequence. And I think sometimes, I guess, when you're playing the professional game, you probably lose that, the reason why you probably started cricket and the reason why you play.
Absolutely, and everyone's different. And I've played a little bit of Victoria Second 11 with Maxi, and he's definitely someone you just need to tap on the shoulder and be like, "You're doing really well, mate," and you got to be positive to him. Whereas other people prefer to be challenged, and you're a little bit more direct and be like, come on, mate, you've got to get in net 6 and hit another 300 balls before Saturday. And some people respond differently, but Maxi's so talented. He doesn't want to be down on his confidence because he can't go out and play the shots that he can. So
yeah,
he's definitely.
So as a teammate as well, you probably touch on that. It's important to know your player or know your teammates as well, know them well in their personality.
Absolutely, and as Will said, when you do that at training and you work together as a unit, you'll know each other inside out.
Yeah.
So when you push someone and hold back a little bit, and it's just sort of just like your work life as well. Same goes in the business world.
Yes, very good. Yeah, thank you for that. So, what as a cricketer, what's been your most positive experience?
My most positive experience, definitely probably debuting for South Australia. Positive. The best, happiest moment would be winning premierships with Richmond 2011, 2012, and then Reigate prior in the Surrey Premier League 2014. And they're the only 2 premierships I've won in 17 years of senior cricket. So they're definitely the highlight. The individual would be definitely debuting first class cricket with South Australia, but the team accolades are definitely the highlight. They trump it 100%.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting as well because a lot of people in England probably won't be familiar with the way cricket works or the progression works in Australian cricket. So in Australian cricket, you go from club level or your district level to your state level. And that natural progression, do you think that natural progression, so you could be going from playing club cricket one week to then playing, if you have a good season, going to play for your state side. Do you think in the English system, they need to adopt a similar style within the Australian system, within the English system or not?
Definitely. There's got to be a more emphasis on club cricket here. The Premier League in Lincolnshire or Surrey Premier League, it's getting better. There's really good players that are probably churning out runs and getting to know their game better. So I feel like you should be able to be recruited in your mid-20s in the UK. But I think it's been a little bit pigeonholed here where if you're not a superstar at 17, you're not going to get a look in at the minor counties or the second 11 games. And I've seen some second 11 games, some fixtures here. And you know, the system is the system. I'm not having a go at it in any way, shape or form, but there is a lot of sort of 16-year-olds to 19-year-olds getting a game in the second 11. You fast forward that to Australia, a couple of my second 11 experiences, we're playing against sort of guys that are 28, 29. Peter Siddle's coming back from injury, Dirk Nannis at like 33, you know, that sort of is the difference. And I think in club cricket, if you're making runs and you have done for a few seasons, then you deserve a go at the second 11. So it could be a pathway to the first rank.
I completely agree with you there.
Yeah.
So moving on as well. So what has been your best learning environment in terms of playing?
I preferred a challenging, direct environment. I responded quite well to someone telling me I can't do something or I'm never going to get a game or something like that along those lines, or I need to work harder. And I think I responded quite well to when I was first coming on to Premier Cricket in Australia, and I responded well to those sort of coaches. And made me work a little bit harder, and also the analytical side. Even if had a great coach in Melbourne, so I had great coaches in Adelaide as well. Damien Patton and Gary Hayes come to mind, but in Melbourne at Richmond, a guy called Jared Loftman. Even if I would come off and we had a win and you'd had a good score or done something really well, he was like, he'd sit down with you, you'd have a beer, and he'd talk you through the situation. And he would still challenge you, even though you might have come out of the situation and been on top. That he's like, have you thought about it this way? would this have worked in your favour a little bit easier because you tried to do a fancy ramp shot when the fine leg came up, when you could have just stood back and hit the half volley through cover because they brought mid up, and he would just make you think about it even when you had a win. So that was sort of an analysis point of view where he was a deep thinker of the game. So 2 points. I'd like someone who'd challenge me my thinking, so my execution could be better and play the percentages next time, plus also some coaches who would push me to work harder. Because I needed that. I didn't train. I wasn't a really good trainer of cricket. I love fitness, but I wasn't a good hitting 100 balls, 200 balls more than I should have. So that's where I think I let myself down.
And you talk about quite a lot of technical aspects there, what you work on, but do you find that you've always gone back to almost your process? And for you, what is your process?
My process is very superstitious. But I've also, it's turned into a bit of a habit rather than a superstition. So I stick to that process no matter if I'm in form or out of form. I try and keep it as consistent as possible, which keeps you sort of level-headed. So when you've had a bad run for 5 or 6 weeks, I still do the same thing and I just stick to the process. Because after 17 or 18 years, and it's worked in the past, you've just got to still have that belief that it'll work. So I'm a 2-tap, bowler runs in, nearly gets to the popping crease, back down again, and that calms me down, calms the breathing down, and I can watch the ball and just looking to play with the full face and try and play as straight as possible and keep it simple. That's my process, much as possible.
And I know you might want to touch on this in a minute, but talking about, I know you faced someone like Mitchell Johnson who steamed in and bowled 95 miles per hour around your lug holes. And is it hard to stick to that process when you're under that type of pressure? And if so, have you done anything in the training scenario to almost enable you to cope with that pressure?
Yeah, good question. When he's running in, you probably just like change everything.
Best preparation is to hit your wicket.
Shorten the back lift, and that was actually part of the process. I'd still stick to the routine, mark centre, touch a couple of pads and do the Smith mark, and then tap twice, tap 3 times, but shorten the back lift 100%. None of this flamboyant looking to get the bat swing beautifully through. It's just about try and be really rock solid and watch the ball. But yeah, that sort of pressure, you still stick to the same processes because then your feet are still going to move the same way. They just might need to move a little bit quicker.
And in training, is there anything you can do to almost replicate that pressure of game day?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've always found the nets like the hardest sessions that you can have. So grabbing new balls, if you've got access to them, get the slinger, test each other out, get out of your comfort zone. As much as I didn't like it personally, I still don't like having a hit in the nets when fast bowlers are steaming in. But you've just got to do it. Come in off the slinger off 14 yards, quicken them up because it's going to hold you in good stead when someone is bowling quite rapid on a weekend. And spinners make it as hard as possible, and I get round the wicket and throw some left arm tweakers into the dust to some batters who want to work on their spin. Just make it as hard as possible because, as we know in the UK, starting against spin sometimes is really difficult. So just make it really match-like as much as possible. There's not going to be any fielders, but also try and get through 30 balls to start your net session. See so many people come in and just try and hit the ball out of the park in the UK nets here at Reigate. And it happens in Australia as well. Everyone sort of, I've only got 10 minutes to have a hit. So they sort of don't really stick to the right processes of getting yourself in.
Yeah, perfect. Cheers. And you touched on there about the about spin, about playing spin almost. And I think it's fair to say in England club cricket or in English club cricket, spin does tend to dominate. For you, what is the key? What is the key to playing spin or playing spin well?
So I've had to readjust how I play spin in the UK because it's really difficult and it spins square, especially down south once it gets really dry. So talking June, July, August, you've got 3 months, probably 12 weeks of tough spin conditions. So I used to run a lot at spinners, irrespective if they're spinning away from the bat or into the bat. However, now I play the percentages a lot more, and if left arm orthodox, I'm a right-hander. I'm sitting deeper in the crease and I'm looking to cut, still looking to get forward and drive if they're pitching up, but I'm not coming out of my crease because I've made that mistake a few times and getting stumped. But if they're an off spinner, I'm still coming down the wicket and I'm trying to spread the field as quickly as possible, and then you can manipulate the ones and twos to deep mid-wicket and long on. Plus, you'll have the short mid-wicket come quite close. So that's always a challenge. So you've got to get to the ball and really get your head over it and drive hard with the hands and make sure you hit past the box man in short mid-wicket. So that's how I play spin. If they're spinning away, sit deeper, look to cut. That's my scoring option. If they stray down leg side, I'm looking to just tap it round the corner with a sweep. I don't sweep very well, but I can just help it on its way if they get their line wrong. And you can do that to the off spinner too, even if he's coming round the wicket or over the wicket. So if you can't
and do you think as well, is a sweep shot important playing spin or looking to score against spin?
Yeah, definitely. It's a really important shot, and if you can play it well, it's a really good commodity to have. But don't play it all the time if you're good at it as well. I see the best sweepers get out all the time doing it, and they think they can do it at the start of their innings. And in the nets, 9 times out of 10, it might come off and it looks great. But in a game under pressure, you might miss it and it doesn't look too flash. Look to play straight as possible. Always learn to sweep, learn to pull, and learn to pull so you can pull short bowling. And you don't have to make it your strength or your sweep, but just make sure you can help it on away. So you hit a bad ball, that if they miss their line, it gets put away for 4. And there's always just a short fine leg in. And if you get it past them, and it's usually the older bowler in the team or something, the team can't really run or move. So if you're either side, it's 4.
Yeah, that's perfect. So which player have you most enjoyed playing with and why?
Best player or most enjoyed?
You've most enjoyed playing with?
Definitely the Redbacks. It would have to be. There's a handful from Graham Anu, Shane Dietz, Matthew Elliott, Jason Gillespie, Darren Lehman, Ryan Harris. Sorry for all the name dropping, boys, but they're just great guys to play with. Sean Tate, just awesome guys. We had so much fun. And I only played a couple of seasons at South Australia, but we just had a ball. And that's what we had a few Shield wins that year. A couple of great one-day wins, and it's good to be a part of it.
Not surprised with that team.
Yeah, we did have a few wins. We probably should have done a lot better, but at the end of that season, Matthew Elliott retired, Darren Lehman retired, and Jason Gillespie retired. So, although they had fantastic seasons, they were on their sort of way out, so to speak. Yeah.
And what coaches have you? What coaches have you worked with well, and what coaches could have maybe done things slightly different with you?
Probably some coaches, definitely the challenge direct one. Some of them should have made me spend more time hitting balls and working on my weaknesses. I tried to make my strengths much better, which is always good. You're only going to have 3 or 4 good shots in cricket, so you might as well make your strengths really, really good and your weaknesses not as weak. So you don't have to hit the pull shot for 4 every time or look like Ricky Ponting when he hits a pull shot. But you need to manipulate the field like I was talking about with the sweep. So I needed to work on my weaknesses a little bit better, especially when I had my little window for first-class cricket opportunities. So coaches should have ridden me a little bit harder, I think, for sure. They were probably too nice to me because I was winning some of the fitness tests and the bleep tests, all that stuff that doesn't mean anything. You got to be fit, yeah, absolutely. The modern day cricketer needs to be fit. You've got to field for 160 overs now in some 4-day games, but you've got to work on your skills and you've got to make them really, really good. And I enjoyed fielding, but I didn't love it. I love bowling and batting, but I didn't love batting all day long like a Mike Hussey or a Justin Langer or someone like that. So it's been really harder for sure.
Yeah, cheers. And who is the most talented player you have played with and against?
Easy one playing with was Darren Lehman. Lucky enough to put on a 100-run partnership in his last ever first-class game, and it fell on a Saturday, so there's 10 to 15,000 people at Adelaide Oval, which is unheard of. And when we were batting together, he made his 100 at the time in his last ever game. So we got to hug. I got to hug him. I only put on 28 runs off 80 balls in this 100-run partnership. It was probably a 150-run partnership, so I didn't contribute much. But just watching him play the second new ball, he was hitting it to all parts. It was a spread field. Lucky enough to debut against Ricky Ponting, where he made 95 and 135, and they chased 370 in the last innings. And watching Ricky, he looked a bit scratchy in the first inning, looked up and he was on 45 off about 60 or 70 balls. And how has he done that? And it's just about occupying the crease and playing straight. And he was just hitting them straight for 1 and 2 off Tate, Harris, Gillespie. Awesome attack. Dan Cullen, he played for Test for Australia, Offie, gun attack. So, yeah, it was just impressive. Both players are class above.
Incredible story that, Andy, about Darren Lehman. You mentioned how you didn't do much in the partnership, but obviously you would have played sort of an invisible role, really. I think that's the great thing about partnerships. They're a partnership. They don't take one person. So even if somebody scores more runs than the other, it's still vitally important that they have that other person at the end. And again, it's sort of, I think that goes back to getting to know your teammates, talking to them, keeping them calm during that situation. You could argue that without you getting to know him, would he have had the confidence within himself to be able to do that? And I think that's probably key to partnerships.
Yeah,
and like you were touching
yeah,
on.
absolutely, Will. And one of the good things about that day was we came in and we were under a little bit of pressure. So I was batting at 6, so we were 4 for 150, so we're still sort of 150 from having a lead. So by the time I got out, I think we had a lead, and then we still had 5 wickets in the shed.
Yeah.
So we're in a good position to set up the game, and that was key. And I couldn't score that fluently off quick bowling, and that's why I probably didn't have a long first-class career. But I could chew up an end and face some balls. So I think, it was really good partnership, and it was definitely a highlight, pinnacle for sure.
Just to let you know, we've got 8 minutes left, and we're just going to disconnect.
Oh no worries, mate. No worries. We can go over time. It's all good.
Oh, I know you. You're quite close yourself with Jason Roy. Could you have foreseen what has happened to his career in the last couple of years?
Oh, J Roy's brilliant. He's always down at the club when he doesn't have an international game at Reigate. He lives around the corner. He always shows a face, buys some beers for the guys after the game on a Saturday, and just watching him play through. I haven't had the chance to have plenty of games with him because he was a Reigate junior. I came on the scene at 2012 and he was already starting to play for Surrey then. But he probably, when he was available, was probably playing 3 or 4 games for Reigate when he didn't have to as well. He probably could have had a rest day, but he wanted to have a hit. And I think that's the mentality you need if you want to go to the international level. So you can't fault that sort of work ethic and the sort of drive and passion to get there and the motivation. That it all ties into one. All those quality adjectives, and that's what you want to have, and that's what he showed.
And I know we talked as well about Mitchell Johnson bowling 95 miles per hour at you. Well, from your you faced Mitchell Johnson bowling 95 miles per hour. Can you tell us what that experience was like?
Yeah, so Mitchell was just out of the test team. And playing him at the Gabba, it was like batting on a concrete slab already. So it was just lightning. And he wasn't happy he was out of the test team. So he bowled probably a 12-over spell in the first innings. And he was bowling rockets. And when you know someone's bowling rockets, you get out to the middle and you look back to the wicket keeper and the cordon, and they're close to the 30-yard circle. So you're like, and they're like, this guy's so scared, isn't he? Chris Hartley's clapping Shane Watson and Jimmy Marr in first and second slip. And I said, well, you would be if you're standing up here. I tell you, boys, they're standing 30 metres back. It's pretty easy. So, yeah, and got through the first innings all right, got 60 against him. So that was awesome. And then the second innings, he wasn't happy, and we're only chasing 80 to win our first Shield game at the Gabba in 17 years. And he took 4 for 10. And we were only chasing 80, and I've come out at number 5. It was a bit of an elevation, and he was bowling rockets, and he just hit me on the hand, broke my hand through here, and I was caught at bat pad for 4 in the second innings. But we got over the line in the end, 4 down, but people were just nicking them over the slips. 1 bounce 4. I think people just tried to slog him to get through it. So,
and I remember actually watching that, and actually the week after, didn't you go to South Africa and take on Hashim Amla?
Yeah. A couple of weeks later, he got back into the test team because he played against us. He probably took 10 wickets for the match. He's Amla, the best batter in the world at the time, square in the head, first ball of the test. So I thought, maybe I'm not that bad at playing the short ball.
That's brilliant. And so you guys played against some great bowlers, some great fast bowlers and spin bowlers. What attributes do those bowlers have, or what, as a batsman, why is it so tricky playing against them?
So bowlers who are just relentless and hitting knee roll top of off is the hardest thing for a batter. Even if they're bowling straight, if they're trying to hit the rope, the seam, they can go in or away. They're the best bowlers. And Ryan Harris, for me, was probably the best bowler I played with. And just was working on just one thing, hitting that 50-cent piece, sort of like a Glenn McGrath mentality, a Jimmy Anderson kind of mentality. That's all they try and work to do for 20-odd years. So it just doesn't happen overnight. But they're the best bowlers who are consistent and relentlessly testing out a batsman's defence. And it's likewise with the spinners. If you're just constantly making the batter play, eventually they're going to make a mistake, or they're going to try and sweep the wrong ball or run at you and miss. So I think I keep it pretty simple. Try and bowl 6 balls in the right spot, which is a lot easier than said done.
Yeah, so it's just about practice, really, isn't it? In terms of
working hard. Yep. Set up your cones and just work hard. Work on your follow through, so you're getting the revs in and all that sort of stuff as a spinner. But yeah.
And last question: if you could have any superpower as a cricketer, what would it be and why?
I'm prepared for this one. Thanks, Wills. So, guys, I reckon I'd have to be Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's very elusive. I was watching a bit of a movie the other day and Spider-Man appeared. So if I was Spider-Man, I would have been able to duck under every short ball or get out of the way of it and pull. And then if Mitchell Johnson didn't break my hand, I would have had a longer first-class career, I think.
That's brilliant. I'd like to thank you for giving up your time and talking to us this morning. It's been a brilliant insight to what it's like to be a professional cricketer and play with some unbelievable players. So thank you, Andy, very much.
No worries, Wills, and all the best, Lyndon Cricket Club, this summer. I hope you get some cricket in and stay positive. And, I wish you all the best in the future. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Andy.
Cheers,
Andy.